Well, the biggest industry event has come and gone, and after road tripping 3,000 miles round trip, taking on a 72-ounce steak, a 6-pound burrito, and then going crazy for 3 days being bombarded by video game quote-unquote journalists, all trying to get the next big scoop, we are finally here to give you the super secret lowdown on all the good and bad things you may or may not have heard about. Hey, I'm Stuttering Craig for screwattack's wins and fails of E3 2010.
Number 5.
Every year, millions of people anxiously await to see what the big three are going to say at their press conferences. And if for some reason you missed it this year, let me just save you the trouble and tell you the general consensus is that Nintendo pretty much bent Microsoft and Sony over and made them its bitch. Why? Well, how does a new Zelda, GoldenEye, Kirby, Donkey Kong Country, and Golden Sun sound? Oh, and don't forget about the official unveiling of the 3DS, which allows you to play 3D games without 3D glasses and is going to be backwards compatible with the remaining DS library. Yeah, pretty rad stuff for sure you gotta see and have in your hands to understand. 2010 was big for Nintendo, which they definitely needed after 2009's just debacle. Not a single mention of the Vitality sensor? Automatic win. Now, if Nintendo could just take that 3DS technology and get into the TV making business, Sony would really start shitting bricks.
Number 4.
Over the last couple years, I'd like to think that screwattack's done a pretty good job of leading the retro revival as franchises that were once dead or at least on life support are now getting resurrected. Throw in the fact that fighting games are now regaining their rightful spot in the gaming world, and it's just the right time to make things right. And by right, I mean bloody, gruesome, and most importantly, 2D. Mortal Kombat is finally back. After having a long stretch of mediocre 3D games where they try to add fighting styles and characters nobody cared about, go-karts and chess, and even a foray into removing the fatalities due to licensing rights, MK is going back to the basics, and we couldn't have a bigger boner for this game. While we haven't had a chance to play it, everything we've seen makes us say yes, yes, yes! Now, if some movie studio could just greenlight that damn movie, we might just be in heaven.
Get over! Number 3.
Parties are thrown left and right at E3. Some big, some small. And regardless of size, they're obviously all fun, but this year one company took the cake by a mile. And if you're fortunate enough to go to it, you know why. Activision freaking rented out the Staples Center and essentially had a private concert for about 5,000 of their closest friends as a who's who of music just rocked the place. Everyone from Jane's Addiction to Eminem. Well, admittedly, I don't know everybody who performed. It was a bad-ass experience. And yeah, they asked for no photography or taping, but Activision's goal was obviously to create a buzz about their concert and the games their musicians were going to be in. And you know what? I have no problem helping them out with that because I had a badass time. So make sure you go buy Call of Duty Black Ops, or Eminem may kill you.
Number 2.
We heart you guys, all of you. Okay, well, most of you. This year at E3, we felt the love right back when we were walking around the floor, and it was actually hard to get things done because all the great folks that just wanted to say hi. Hey man, thank you very much. Without sounding mushy, that's something we don't take for granted at screwattack, and we definitely appreciate the appreciation you have for our appreciation of video games. While this entry may be a little bit more personal and less about E3, if you don't like it, suck my balls.
It's number 1.
Question: what is E3? Now, some would argue that it's a trade show that is there to impress stockholders and such. And if you're in that camp, you would be wrong. E3 is a media expo designed to show off the newest games in the gaming industry. And while this year, yes, there was a bunch of crap on the floor, there certainly was a heck of a lot of gamers' games. You had the return to grace of Sonic, a new badass Contra, a new Castlevania 2 and 3D, a new Zelda, the return of one of the most badass sports games and fighting series in history. I mean, holy crap! Those games got me so excited! Oh, move on to the fails.
Number 5.
You know, sometimes things just don't go off like you expect them to. Or rehearse them to in this case. As we already hit on, the Nintendo press conference was pretty rockin', with one of the lone exceptions being when it was time to show off a little bit of Zelda. As big of smiles as we had to see Link's new adventure, those smiles quickly turned to cringes as we watched a video game legend attempt to showcase his latest creation, only to flail around to a non-responsive Wii.
And you can see the sword following my movements one to one.
Now, later, after getting our hands on the game ourselves, we did find out that the controls actually do work great, but for a few brief moments, we had to turn our heads and look away. But we didn't because it was Kind of like watching a train wreck.
Number 4.
Speaking of train wrecks, G4. Now, in the middle of their reruns of Cops, they'll occasionally manage to put together some video game coverage. Now, obviously, it's all overproduced, and let's be honest, just not very fun to watch. So leave it up to Keith Apicary to try to liven the whole thing up. And while Booby McGamer over here is trying to do some hardcore journalism, Keith was looking for the real scoop.
How about that?
Have you guys seen the Dreamcast 2?
Now, before he got his answer, he was promptly escorted off and yelled at and booted from E3. Unfortunately for G4, that was the most exciting 5 seconds of programming they had all week. Will Keith be back at E3 next year? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Number 3.
Peripherals. Everywhere. Everything is a damn peripheral. This year, 2 really stuck out in our mind for absolute ridiculousness. One being this inflatable Mario Kart vehicle, which, hey, whatever, it's just some idea this guy had and he's trying to make a buck and make a living, so we're not going to be that hard on it, as silly as it is. What we are going to say is the most retarded thing we've ever seen is trying to sell laser tag as a video game. Are you serious, Ubisoft? Even the dude from the soup wanted to hide while this was being demoed.
Just gonna hide.
Now, here's the dude who thought up this amazing technology.
Okay. Something lots of gamers have been waiting for.
I'm sorry. What? No! When did you ever say to your buddy on Xbox Live, hey, sure, being a space marine in space and firing this bazooka at your face is fun, but you know what I could really go for? The real thing. Just not nearly as cool, not in space without a bazooka, and doing so while looking like an absolute tool. And even if you have said that, you just wouldn't play laser tag. Dude, don't think we're dumb and try to sell this as new technology. It's called Photon. From the 80s. Look it up.
Number 2.
Alright, I'm just gonna throw this out there. You don't look good in a poncho. Sure, they're functional when it's raining, but when you're surrounded by 1,000 other of your not-so-closest friends that are dripping in sweat in a room and not allowed to even get water or leave? Not so much. Even if they have shoulder pads and lights in them.
Let's go inside as we begin the journey by stepping into a mysterious forest.
Yes, Jeff Keighley, let's go inside and witness this creative snooze fest. Now, by all accounts, the super exclusive media preview of it to check out Kinect was pretty much a disaster. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I was there, but I've had plenty of journalist friends who were there and described it as, quote, one of the worst experiences of my life. Now, it may look pretty on TV, but throwing a bunch of smelly dudes in a room and making them wear ponchos isn't the best way to make a first impression. Now, if there's only some way they can make it up to them.
It's number 1.
Which is exactly what they attempted to do when Microsoft gave a bunch of journalists the new Xbox after their press event the following day. Lucky for you, faithful viewer, 1, I wasn't there, and 2, I'm no journalist, so Microsoft, you cannot buy me off. But if you'd like to, email Craig at screwattack.com. Your press conference sucked my balls. You touched on a couple games that we knew were on the way, like Gears and Halo, but then we were bombarded by Kinect and its crappy casual games for an hour. Gag me. While Sony's press event was boring, yours was just straight up enraging. Microsoft, we know you have this new toy and you want to show it off, but have you forgotten about who's been buying your consoles, your games, your controllers over the last 5 years? Us, the real gamers. Will mommy and daddy buy Kinect? Yeah, probably. But I know I speak for every gamer out there when I say your technology is cool, but we hope it fails so you can get back to focusing on games and not a peripheral that is marketed like a new console that is designed to suck the market that the Wii already has a 4-year head start on you on. Now, I'm not going to say you can't come back from this like Nintendo came back from their crap fest last year, but for this year, Microsoft and Kinect, you fail. Hard.